Listen,
Listening.
motherfuckers.
Are you?
I'm a strong believer of Jesus and the Christ.
I'm sorry.
Alright,
I have to
my
ask.
G's.
I have to ask. How old are you?
22.
Okay. And what
Listen,
religion?
see, my testosterone didn't touch me. As I'm a Jesus following Christian. Okay.
Okay. Jesus following Christian. Okay. What would you like to
Yeah, baby
present?
girl, you know me.
I do not know you.
I'm not as famous as I used to be, Pirate Johnson. I don't know what to do. Anyway, my G.
Does anyone else
Why do you not
understand?
believe in my Lord? Why don't you believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, my gamer?
My gamer? I'm not playing any games. Um,
Girls are
Jesus
so bad at
was a
trolling.
man that died,
They really are.
and God doesn't exist.
My
Girls
guy,
can't troll.
my guy. You're assuming I'm trolling, but it's just my culture, you see. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We can go back to the other discussion. That's fine. I thought there was a legit
Well,
question
no,
here.
I would love to know your reasoning on why you don't believe in God.
I only want to believe in true things.
Yes, but you state only truth. But why only? Why would you state that there is no form of God? What
'Cause
is your feeling of that to be true? Is there a sense of you believe that science is the ultimate answer, and you believe that science cannot answer theology, or
I don't know. In general, there's no evidence of a
Theology
deity.
isn't shown anything.
So when there's no evidence of something, like for example, there's no evidence of unicorns, right? So I don't believe in unicorns. There's no evidence of a deity. Like we can make this a very simple conversation. Like for example, I ask you, hey, do you have evidence of your deity? And then you say no. And then I say, okay, I don't believe you. Like that's
okay.
that's the simplicity of the conversation, right?
Oh, can I give maybe a not necessarily a Christian perspective, maybe from a theological perspective that could maybe give you a more rounded thought on this rather than maybe that doesn't exist doesn't exist example unicorns, which are mythical, obviously. You could state, well, maybe there isn't necessarily a Christ or Jesus or the Lord and Savior up above, but you could maybe argue that there could be a potential, or there is something that could have created a universe that could be more or less
And
unexplained,
and
right?
the universe
That could have been
could.
more or less a living being rather than just simple,
So if
like for instance,
if
the Big
all
Bang, right?
hang on, if you're going to
That would be
use the word
theism, yeah.
could, right, and not present any evidence of that, then your word could just means that you can make up any story you want. The universe could have come from, a piece of cheese, right? I mean, it could have come from a turtle, right? It could, right? Because I can hypothesize anything, right? But there's no
Yes,
evidence
but
of
wouldn't
that.
you say that my thought process is a bit more rational? Rather than a
No.
piece of cheese or a unicorn or like a fairy from outer space flying in and being like, yeah, this is the Earth, this is the universe, right?
An all
You could say
powerful
that, right?
creator of the universe with a conscious mind. It's identical to the hypothesis of a unicorn. They have the same amount of evidence. They're both made up.
But this is where I'm asking you to maybe think for a moment, right? Instead of completely denying a potential being that could have a conscious mind that could create the universe. The Bible itself could be completely wrong. So could the Quran.
Yeah,
It's
that
what
would be
I'm trying to
deism.
state, right? If you can open your mind, okay?
I, I'm
Like a bare bones
I'm
Would
God.
you
willing to
would you
take in
accept that there
evidence.
could be? Could you accept the idea that maybe it hasn't been found yet, since research it or discovery, we're still discovering as the
Sure.
planet
Yes.
grows or the
Yes. With
planet
the
dies, right? We only
exact.
know 1% or less than information. So to state that you have a
Mhm.
guarantee that you don't believe in any sort of entity at all could really be questioned, right? Because we can't necessarily say for sure, right?
Well,
Wait,
sure.
but I have a question.
We can't say for sure. So the same level of openness I have for the universe coming from a unicorn is the same level of openness I would have for some other fake story. So it could be the case that the story that you would like to present is true. That could be the case. But the current level of evidence I have is equivalent to the unicorn.
I, I, I'm sorry, wait.
Mhm.
You're referring back to the unicorn, right? And you're obviously referring back to, since there's no evidence, therefore it can't be true. That is essentially what you're saying when you're
No, I
stating
didn't
this.
say it couldn't be true.
Kind of.
I didn't say
Would
it
you?
couldn't be true, right? But in
Right.
general, we
Right.
operate on establishing true things through evidence. We don't just hypothesize things could be true and then declare them as true. That's asinine.
Okay. I mean, we could also state, right, that what we create isn't necessarily. Now, hear me out.
Okay.
Necessarily like numbers. I'm gonna use numbers. I'm gonna sound like a Muslim for a minute. Numbers, right? It's a concept that is made up that
Yes.
is seen as true, right? But the only reason why it's true is because it's created within our society. If we got rid of numbers altogether, it wouldn't matter. What I'm trying to state is that there is a possibility, a potential idea that there could be that creator. We also do not understand how the earth is created even without the concept of a god or the concept of, any sort of higher entity.
What are
Crummel,
you talking about?
back off, Crummel.
We have an incredibly detailed model of how the Earth came to be from a dust cloud. We have an incredibly detailed model of where the matter came from that made up the Earth, right? They came from
Which is theorized, right?
supernova explosions. Yeah, but these are incredibly detailed models. When you say just theorized, germ theory is just theorized. That's a silly way to talk about that. Like
It's not
it's
necessarily silly. I mean, there is some truth aspect behind germ
when
theory,
you
right?
when you say when you're presented a topic and you say that's just theorized, when that topic is incredibly detailed and studied by thousands of scientists with tens of thousands of research papers and books, literally terabytes of simulated data gets run through supercomputers at like MIT, like that is silly for you to call all of that just a theory.
Well, theories can have truth behind them, right? You're calling me silly for simply stating that. Let's
No,
be
I'm
honest.
I'm saying
Well, if you want to interrupt me,
our confidence,
it's okay.
our confidence.
It's okay. You don't respect me for my theology. It's fine. I understand.
Sure. So our
So you'll
confidence.
interrupt me.
Yes. So our confidence, right, in where and how the Earth was developed is the same as why we know the Earth goes around the sun.
So that completely means that you deny the idea of a potential creator.
No,
Because there must be something that would have caused that theory, more than a theory, as you claim, as there's truth behind it. Well, not necessarily claim, there's truth behind what you're saying, and I'm not denying what you are saying, but there is some theory aspect behind it. There had to be something to be theorized and to understand, to develop within your mind, to then get to that point of research, and to complete, as I'm trying to state, obviously, is that if you look at that from, an objective perspective, what comes before it
what comes
is what I'm trying to say. And we
what
don't have that knowledge, right? We will be unable to completely comprehend or understand that knowledge, as I state, because humans only know maybe a percentage, like the smallest percentage of what's within the world.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, so you can
What's
only
So
within the
say what
universe.
ifs.
can we just
You
back
can
up
only
a
say what
second?
ifs then.
I don't know why we're trying to talk around a particular topic. Do you think that God exists?
Of course.
Okay.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be arguing with you.
What evidence do you have for that?
There's no evidence. There's faith.
Okay. So then I'm never
And
going
maybe in a
to
sense I could
accept I'm never going to accept that. Right?
I have
well,
faith
you
that
don't
there's no
accept it
God,
because you
I
don't
guess.
understand how the mind of maybe a religious person works, right?
Why would I not
Maybe I
understand
see
how the
something
mind
as,
of a religious person works? Why would you think that?
well, this is how you're seeing it. Well, I don't accept what you say. Maybe from my perspective, I have seen something that would suggest that maybe a Lord does exist. It's how my mind works. It's
Then
how,
that would be evidence that you would present. You said you had none. That's a different statement. So you're changing your statement.
well, I didn't change my statement. I said that I believe that there is something because I have been shown something that doesn't necessarily state that there is an absolute God, but it gives me the
Okay.
idea and the truth
Then
in my mind that there is God.
then what
If
it
you state that I'm stating absolute, I'm not stating absolute. I'm stating that I have faith based on a subject matter that has happened within life for me. And to then
what
say that I'm stating a guarantee is then you
no one
essentially
said for you to
saying
state a
you're being
guarantee.
silly.
I asked if you had evidence, right? And you said you had
Right?
none, right? Now you're saying that
No,
you have
right?
subjective
Yeah.
experience.
Yes, which isn't necessarily evidence. You can't use that subjective experience and state it's evidence because that is not necessarily evidence that you're going to accept, nor would anyone reasonable would accept.
I agree with you, but that's still evidence that you could present if you wanted to justify why your deity existed. Instead, you've said that effectively there is no evidence and you don't have anything to present. And yet you're then
So
trying to convince people that your position is correct.
if I said I had a maybe for instance like I was in a moment where I was near death and I had a near death experience and I saw the Lord himself
Mm-hmm.
come and speak to me and that he was giving me more time on the planet Earth, and that was my experience. It could be chalked up to hallucinations, it could have been chalked up to the
Mm-hmm.
medication I was taking, it could have been chalked up to anything.
Sure.
But in my mind, I believe that's truth and evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to accept that evidence, nor would you consider it as evidence. So if I call it evidence, I'm being dishonest. So instead of being dishonest with you, I'm telling you the truth. I don't consider that evidence, right?
Well, that's
And I'm not
great.
going to
I
give
would
you
have
subjective evidence.
Yeah, that would have been my evaluation with it. I would have asked you whether or not you think it's reasonable for me to reject the evidence that you have. And it sounds like you do think that that's the reasonable position. So I assume you think it's reasonable for me to not accept the evidence that you have because you have no other evidence other than a personal experience.
Yes,
Okay.
but how does so many people have that personal experience?
Well, the
How
majority
many
of
people?
religious people are religious because they were born into it, right? That's just like
Associative
statistics.
behavior, yeah.
Yeah, that's very well known. That's
But
why the
how does
majority
it
of
begin?
Christians
How
were
does it
born
start,
Christian.
right?
Majority of Muslims were
Why do
born Muslim.
Hindus, when they go through similar experiences like you did, see their own Hindu gods?
Yeah, typically when people switch religion, right, that has a tendency to put them onto the track of becoming an atheist, right, at some point. But yeah, the majority of people are the religion they're in because that's the religion that they were born in, right?
Well,
Well,
I would
the
like to.
thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to state, right,
Mm-hmm.
the most authentic form of religion, or the most authentic people who are within religion, are people who were initially atheists and then they have, transformed themselves and their souls to follow the Lord and Savior
Born
Jesus,
again?
and
Well,
you are right. A lot of
what
people who are
the majority of those people, typically it's because they've had some particular experience. Like, for example, they overcame some trauma, such as alcoholism or something to that effect. And the
Nature, yeah.
particular group that helped them in that endeavor told them this is because God did it, right? Or this particular religion did it. And so those people have a tendency to get sucked into that cult-like mindset, as is what happens naturally with any cult. Like, we literally have papers on like the research of like cults, right? And how people get sucked into cults and how they, question things without any evidence or whatnot, right? Like, have you ever looked up like any of the interviews of the people that were in Jonestown, right? Or what was the one in San Francisco with the guy? I forget his name.
I think it's just strange that like you go to different parts of the world, you go to like a majority Christians. Most of these traumatic events that happen when people are like in hospitals or they see things, they're mostly seeing what they grew up with. So when you go to as a majority, but if you go to like India or any place like that, you're not gonna see a majority of people saying it was like Jesus while having these problems.